It's time to introduce Ward 3 candidates. That's why we're here this evening. Daniel Giddings, Sandra Walls. Sandra, you will be number 1 on the by random draw, and Daniel, you're number 2. We'll alternate that as the evening goes through. This evening gives us a chance to get to know them a little bit better and find out how they can improve our community. I wish you both the best as you make your way to the questions tonight. So I'm going to give 3 minutes for opening remarks, and Sandra, you have the floor first.
Great. Good evening, and thank you to the Chamber for hosting and to all of you for attending. For those of you who don't know me, my family and I moved to Trent Hills from rural Whitby in 1989, first in Warkworth and currently in Campbellford. It's only been 33 years, but I consider myself a local. My son Michael, he lives and works in Campbellford, and my daughter Alyssa, she lives in Warkworth with her husband Rory and their 2 sons, Cooper and Harrison. Both my grandsons have attended Percy Centennial in Warkworth, Harrison in grade 6, and Cooper's now in high school grade 9. As a local, I have spent nearly all 33 years living, volunteering, and or working in Trent Hills and or the county of Northumberland in various capacities. Starting as a young mom, I started Warkworth's Block Parent Program, worked at Warkworth's Post Office, and now volunteer at the Aaron Theatre and CKOL radio station. I have been a postmaster, a municipal councillor, small business owner, and a thrift store manager. And I am confident that my skills and qualifications developed over the years and throughout this county make me a well-rounded candidate. Through my employment with Career Edge Campbellford, I have frontline first-hand experience working with residents and business owners from Warkworth, Hastings, and Campbellford on a daily basis. Understanding firsthand their struggles, their concerns, and their hopes for the future, I am eager to advocate on behalf of them as their council rep for Ward 3. I know what it takes to be an effective municipal councillor. I've been one, and I know the collaboration and the flexibility required to work as part of a team and get that job done. I have experience working with a 2-tier municipal government, as well as amalgamated municipalities striving to work as one. I feel council should focus on some of the following: ensuring that the safety and well-being and quality of life of our residents are first and foremost during all decision-making. Developing strategies to provide safe, accessible, and affordable housing for all levels of income. Actively participating in the planning of our new healthcare facility, including supporting the recruitment of local decisions. So supporting the expansion of transportation. Oh, great. Focus on supporting and enhancing the quality of life of our older citizens, creating the conditions needed to support and grow our tourism, new business, and small industry, supporting overall growth, both rural and urban, to expand our tax base, ensuring council decisions are made with priority consideration for the impact on our water, air, and environment, nature, and for generations to come, and scrutinizing all aspects of the municipal budget for efficiency, and ensuring that we are getting the best value for our dollar and lobbying supporting partnerships. I know Trent Hills. I know the people and I know the issues we face. I know Campbellford. I live here, I work here, I volunteer here, and I play here. And being part of a team of people keeping Campbellford as a municipality alive, growing is a priority to me. Thank you.
And Daniel, opening remarks, 3 minutes, please.
I'd like to thank the Chamber of Commerce for hosting this event and thank everyone here for attending, as well as those who may watch videos later. In honor of tomorrow's National Day of Truth and Reconciliation, I see you, I hear you, and I believe you. When my wife, Krista, and I were looking for a place to settle, we spent the rest of our lives in, we essentially spun a globe, and where it landed, the first reaction was, what's a Campbellford? Since moving here, after eating all this stock of Doors donuts, eating all the chocolate from the chocolate factory and the entire cheese stock, we realized that Trent Hills had a lot more to offer than just diabetes. My wife and I knew that when we found our forever home, as you may know, we're advocates for dog ownership and we're advocates for dog adoption. Much like our boys, we have chosen Trent Hills to be our home. We're not born here, but I believe that our commitment to this community is stronger than being born because we made it our home. We chose to be here. The first thing I did after moving in was reach out to our mayor, to our MPP, and our MP. I introduced myself to them, and I told them I wanted to be an active member of this community. I've often compared to being someone's boy, and the real reason for that is I'll work with anybody in leadership that will make this place an even greater place than it already is. I have since day one been an advocate for local businesses. I've worked on fundraising for our hospital. I've been a voice for the seniors in the Rotary Club, been a strong supporter of our fire department, a member of our Legion, as well as I serve on the board of directors for the Air and Theatre. As a new resident, I have an outside perspective on where the needs need to be changed, and I don't have a bias on what issues are more important than others. I've chosen this community. I've chosen it to be my home. I've chosen to be a part of the solution, not just a part of the problem. I've chosen to make this place a place that I can be more proud of than I already am. As a councillor, I will advocate for commercial industrial growth. I will focus my business mind to help create more sustainability in retail and services to be the support of residential growth in this municipality. I will continue to be out in the community, getting public input and being accessible. I'll look at our bylaws and our official plans. They are living documents that can have situation or site-specific details. We need to always look at changes, better controls, and adaptability simply for the fact that just because it worked before doesn't mean it's always going to work. I would say to everyone, get out and vote. And if you believe in the greater Trent Hills, vote for Daniel.
Okay, thank you for those opening remarks. So now we're into the question and answer session. And Daniel, you will go first on this first question. Question is, are you in favor of eliminating the ward system to create one community and have an open election where we all vote for mayor, deputy mayor, and 3 councillors at large? 1 minute, please.
So I've seen it work in other municipalities like Clarington, where they can go further to have regional councillors. Change is hard, but with time, the new ward system has the potential to work. We'll ensure that residents have a proper representation, and then the councillor overlap is controlled to make sure that councillors are more effective. With growth, there will be a higher demand on our council to represent successfully. There's a potential of success with the ward system. There is no risk that without the ward system, people in the more rural areas can often be neglected or forgotten. That said, I do believe we need to give it time and we need to reevaluate it in the future after we give them a chance to try.
Thank you. Sandra, 1 minute, please.
Thank you. So basically, my answer is yes. We are, after all, one municipality and of course, much stronger together than apart. And electing at large would certainly send that message. With that said, some residents feel that if each community within the municipality is specifically voting for a representative from either Warkworth, Campbellford, or Hastings, then that community isn't getting represented. This 5-ward system was created to equalize the number of residents that each councillor is responsible for, and an election at large would result in 7 councillor members from all one area. Council members should accept and respond to all inquiries equally, regardless of where the resident or business is located. And all members should be working for the betterment of the municipality as a whole, and not for one community over another, and voting that way accordingly. But there are no guarantees, so we have to be careful what we want and what we wish for. Having said that, if a resident felt strongly about the issue, they could initiate a petition, which would have to well, you could anyway.
Thank you. The next is an advanced question that you've been privy to. Question is, what are your thoughts on attracting more doctors and healthcare professionals to the area to meet both the immediate needs and the future staffing of the new hospital? This is a 2-minute response, and Sandra, you will start.
Attracting physicians to Trent Hills. There are 5,100 patients in the Trent Hills area needing primary care. And even though this is a provincial responsibility, there are things that council can do and should do. We play a large part in making our community one that any physician would want to live and work, starting with supporting the physician recruitment committee. Currently, this committee is made up of a mix of healthcare and business professionals. But in 2018, council sent a letter and removed the council rep from that table. And I think that we need a council representative back on that physician recruitment committee. We need to be at the table in order to know what's going on and how can we help and how can we answer community questions if we're not at the table. So for 2022, we contributed $70,000 to the physician recruitment committee. I think that we should also ask the hospital to review the physician recruitment coordinator position, because when I talked to the lady who recently stepped down from that position, it has gone much further than just recruiting and retaining physicians. And so that's something that I think needs to be narrowed down. We need to take a look at the potential use of nurse practitioner-led clinics as proposed to the council earlier this year. And in discussion with the physician recruitment coordinator, she also suggested that doctors look at the following things to live here: inclusive and diverse communities. They want to know the atmosphere of the community they're going to make their home and raise their family. Shopping, restaurants, transportation options, rental and or affordable housing, of course, year-round individual and family activities, reputation of the schools, health and wellness, I could go on and on, but the truth is, if we're not, the BIA and the chamber and the council and the physician recruitment, if we're not working together to create an atmosphere that is welcoming and inviting, then a doctor's not going to bring his or her family here and raise their family.
Thank you. Daniel, 2-minute response, please.
I have a bit of a lengthy response, but I think what matters is, as a business owner, I'm always looking for better ways to increase the way we do our practices. I think one of the things that we need to do is we need to look to other communities and see what they do to recruit more doctors, physicians, and healthcare workers. One of the things we need to look to is we need to look to our provincial and our federal members to be the squeaky wheel. I think we need councillors to get out there and say to our MPPs, our MP, that Trent Hills matters. We need sustainable healthcare service to be able to support our growing community. One of the majority of my questions are going to be answered is we need better development in this community. We need to grow Campbellburg and Trent Hills, and we need the services like healthcare. The things that we do need to do is find incentives like tuition payback, or find ways that we work with universities to create internships, or even find ways to turn our hospital into a teaching hospital. But none of that works if we don't have someone on council that just constantly gives our province and our federal just a pain in the ass and say, don't forget about us. Around the highway is important, but we do matter too. All right, this is a provincial problem, but Trent Hills does matter. And that's why I plan to do is be that person.
Okay, thank you. Dave, we've got the fan going again. How's the part of the voices? You're okay, good, thank you. I've done 2. Number 3 question. 1-minute response time, starting with Daniel and then Sandra. Respondents to a bike action survey identified improvements to active transportation infrastructure, such as adding bike lanes, improving trails, and improving route connectivity for bikes in Trent Hills. Is making active transportation improvements a priority for you? And if so, how do you propose to make our municipality more bike friendly? Daniel, 1 minute, please.
So the answer to the first question is yes. I mean, my wife and I, we own 3 dogs. We're avid walkers. We have a lot of great trails in here. I think the biggest problem is we need to make sure that the streets are safe. We know that the streets aren't safe with the speeding. Once we can assure that the streets are safe and deal with the policing issue, we should find better ways to create the trails and bike lanes, and even just find ways to connect the existing trails that we have, so that people can use it as a means of transportation from their home, even to the downtown core or to Paris Park or that kind of stuff. So I think if we look at the safety first and ensure that, then I think the option for bike lanes is an option. We certainly have the road space for it.
Thank you. And Sandra, response? 1 minute, please.
So yes, the simple answer is yes. As far as making room for pedestrians to enjoy walking or running or cycling along the roads where feasible and cost effective, then yes, that's an absolute wonderful idea to expand the width of our roads to allow for a walkway. But I am a little confused on the biking question, because I think Kathy talked about this last night. If you go to the municipal website, including Northumberland County, but even our own Trent Hills municipal website, there's an entire page dedicated to cycling in Trent Hills. So we promote cycling tours. There's the Trans-Canada Trail, the Great Trail, the Trent River Trucking Route, Routes and Trails, Millennium Trail, Trent Hills, and they're in all 3 communities, and they do connect and right down to Ferris Park. So we do have a lot of great systems, including a self-guided walking and driving tour. So I think even more education and more information out there to people, because absolutely we want better living and better health is being active.
Thank you. The next question was also an advanced question that we both have received. This will require a 2-minute response, starting with Sandra. So the question is a very long one. It's probably going to take longer than 2 minutes to read it. But, next up is pedestrian safety. We heard from 2 residents regarding this issue. Here is what a longtime runner of Campbellford streets had to say. I know it is dangerous. It is a dangerous place for pedestrians because drivers do not follow speed limits or pay attention when turning. Will you, this is the question, will you support the introduction of photo radar and red light cameras as a cost-efficient way to crack down on bad drivers? And the next statement is, and another submission from Hastings says, it's becoming increasingly more dangerous to travel in urban centers and Trent Hills as a pedestrian. This puts children and the elderly at great risk. Speeding and aggressive driving have become the norm. I live in Hastings, but this is not just a Hastings problem. Want to witness it in person? Come and sit at the corner of a bridge in front and watch as people completely ignore the only light in town, or watch as people blindly turn into pedestrians crossing the street. There are also issues in downtown Campbellford with speeding dirt bikes, motorcycles, vehicles, and ATVs. And here's the question. If elected, what actions will you take to address this problem in Trent Hills? Starting with Sandra, it's 2 minutes.
Okay, well, the first quick answer is photo radar and cameras. I'd absolutely be willing to look at that. It has been presented to council previously. And I mean, the idea is, the pro idea is that if you're not doing anything wrong, you won't care if there's a camera out there. So I definitely would consider it, but it would have to be cost versus benefits to us. So that's a quick answer on that one. Some of the issues described, I've experienced myself living in town. Some would be municipal, some are county, and some are OPP issues. And I say, if you see it, report it. If it's a street light out, tell the municipality. If it's an HDV, tell the municipality we have a bylaw in effect, and we should be making that bylaw more effective. When you see speeding, give them a call. We see aggressive driving, give OPP a call. But the municipality, I believe back in 2021, had a municipality, the mayor's traffic calming task force in effect. And I think it's the April 20th meeting that it went into effect. And it has created a one-way street in Hastings to deal with some of the issues. It's installed the rumble strips in high-speed areas, purchased mobile radar signs, and the staff is monitoring of county interactions with regard to the crosswalks, and they're adjusting them accordingly. And I think there's one they need to work on because I keep getting halfway across and the light changes. But anyway, so another thought that I have, and I'm a big fan of the community policing or the neighborhood watch, and I know that it has been discontinued back in 2018, and I don't know all the reasons why, but I still think it might be something. Residents feel more comfortable and welcome calling community policing representatives or neighborhood watch, often more than they don't want to bother the OPP. And I think people generally, we can say that it's a safer community because we have neighbors watching each other in an organized, efficient manner. And also they can deliver educational and informational programs, leading the OPP to deal with those larger issues. Thank you.
Thank you. And Daniel, same question, 2 minutes, please.
It's funny, actually, I was out on County Road 8, knocking on doors, and I was listening to a resident talk about the concern she had because of the kids on the street. And as she went to tell me about the speeding issues, and I crossed the road, I almost myself got hit by a black Mercedes. We just turned off burn rate and it managed to get a certain speed up in that real quick time. So is speeding an issue? Absolutely. It doesn't need to be a priority 100%. I know that the current council has started integrating traffic control in the new subdivisions, the new developments. We certainly need to look to increase that in already developed areas. Photo radar and red light cameras are an option. They also would increase revenue for the community. It's not the first option. I think what we need to do is we need, again, look at other municipalities, find out how they're dealing with this, find out what the best practices are. Simply because we've done something a certain way doesn't mean it's always going to work. We got to find how people are successful at mitigating this problem. And that's one of the things I think the new council needs to do is just take a fresh look at an old problem and find out how to do it.
Okay, thank you. Next question. I just quoted, it says, I feel increasingly unsafe walking after dark in town. And I've heard from my neighbors complaining about petty theft, vandalism from vehicles, etc. What plan would you put forward to increase public safety? Do you favor the installation of surveillance cameras to deter criminal activity? That's a 2-minute response. Daniel, first, please.
All right. Good one. Well, I mean, listen, we have 3 dogs, and my first reaction was when Krista was out walking dogs, like, bring your phone and bring something to keep you safe. Forget the fact that we have a great day. But the reality is, it is a problem. Living out here, I won't tell you guys where I live, but I do often leave my truck unlocked. Is it responsible? I have no idea. I do feel safe in the community, but it is still a concern. You know, Sandra spoke about the community safety programs, having people be part of that success. I know when we went kayaking, one of the ladies told us as we were unloading off the car to lock the doors. We were out in Myers, at the Myers Island. We're like, how's that a problem out here? How does anybody know? But reality is, if it is a problem, the municipality should look at ways to do it. But it really is a community problem. It should be a community involvement. You know, we need to hold people responsible for that. Be aware, report things that you see, and be a voice for those concerns.
Thank you. Sandra, 2 minutes, please.
Well, this sort of follows in with what I was saying with the public safety issues with photo radar and speeding. To me, it sort of all comes in together. And I just shared on Facebook today. It appears to be a young man, but it could be a young woman. It's hard to tell with the hoodie. But I just like a warning to our neighbors and to each other that somebody's been breaking into cars locally here in Campbellford. And again, I think we certainly agree on this one. Community safety is a priority for sure. I don't fall back. I'm a huge fan of community policing, and if we don't want to call it that, and we can call it neighborhood watch, and we can take care of each other. I mean, I know the community policing, they're organized, they're trained, they go out in pairs, they can call the OPP directly. They often can do the radar stops and the speeding things, so and keep records and go back. I just think that we should be a community that takes care of each other when we can. I have a big dog too. I have a big German Shepherd, and he looks real mean, but he looks real mean. But I still think twice about walking around the block, and I live right in town across from the high school. And I would still think twice because, you know, it's dark in spots out there. And I think it's the same thing, like when you see lights out, call and tell them, let's get these things repaired and make it a safe environment. I mean, we shouldn't have to rely on social media to share things like there's somebody wandering around our neighborhood down on Rainy Street, breaking into cars. I mean, that's all well and good. You know, that works and that's helpful, but we should have some sort of organized, I mean, if volunteers are, I was talking to a fellow that was let go from his community policing because they shut it down, and we have volunteers. A lot of them are older citizens, and they would love to take part in taking care of the community. Thank you.
Thank you. Next question. According to this ratepayer, in comparison with neighboring municipalities of a similar size, Trent Hills is a very expensive place to live with considerably higher taxes and water bills. Why are they higher, and what can be done to bring them in line with other communities? 2-minute response from each, and Sandra, you will start, please.
Okay. Well, I think that question's been asked, and I think the question to the question was, what municipality were we being compared to? When I did the research, I found that according to the county, all the municipalities in the county, we rank somewhere around 4. So we're midway. I mean, they're not extraordinarily high, they're not extraordinarily low. And as we know, taxes are based on our impact assessed values. And we are, you know, Trent Hills, we are operating 3 distinct and very unique urban communities. That's 3 times the services that we're taking care of. So as far as our taxes, if we want to share the burden, we've got to increase and grow our housing, our business, our small industry, and grow our tax base. We could try to streamline, reduce services. Which ones do we cut? Streamline costs where possible, including shared services with neighboring municipalities. I was a councillor with a municipality where ourselves in Colburn or Cranny Township bought the Public Works Department. We bought 1 vehicle and shared it. And when we did our scheduling of our ditching and trimming of the trees, we just made sure that we could work in cooperation with each other. So it is possible. And again, it's thinking outside the box. I strongly advocate for provincial and federal governments to support funding relief and grant opportunities where possible, and line by line scrutinizing of the budget for cost savings, and ask our municipal departments for recommendations where we can cut back. So that would be my answer to that. As far as the water, again, we take care of three distinct urban communities having the water and sewer. So when we amalgamated and became one, we have to pay, and it's hard to see money go out for infrastructure that we can't actually see. If we build a building, we go, oh, there's our tax money. If it's replacing underground piping, we can't see it, but that's what it is.
Okay,
Thank you. Sorry.
Daniel, join us, please.
I mean, as for the Trent being expensive, the reality is, I agree with Sandra on that. Speaking from a business perspective again, if we continue to bring in more businesses, both industrial and retail, and we can increase the services that are offered here, and then we can look at creating a controlled growth in the municipality. I believe the municipality is a business. We need to find ways to not only be more sustainable and accountable, but we also need to look at our water budgets. We need to look at how the money is being spent and look to find ways to mitigate the way that the budget is being allocated. We need to be more accountable and continue to look at the agreements that we have in place for water and hydro and how the money is being spent. And the reality is our infrastructure, where it ages, it requires more funding to repair it. I know there's streets in certain areas of this community that are suffering because the infrastructure is failing. People's basements are being flooded because of the sewer system. There is a need for better infrastructure. There's a need to spend the money, but what we need to do is we need to look at the budget. And I think as a council, we have to continue to look at the budget and see where the changes can be made and how it's being allocated, how it's being spent. Because in the end, it's all about the end user having to spend the money. And if we're not accountable as a council to the end user, then we're not doing our job properly.
Okay, thank you. Next question kind of follows along the same tax theme. What will you do to ensure our taxes are not raised in the next couple of years to give people a chance to rebound after COVID? And this is a 1-minute response, starting with Daniel.
Well, the truth is probably not much other than realizing that lower taxes often lead to lower services. Taxes will be increased as there's growth and increased need for service. What needs to be done is the council needs to work to mitigate that increase, whether it's finding budget savings, cost avoidance, or finding alternative ways to bring sustainable income in the community. Again, by comparison, I used to own a 1,400 square foot townhouse in Clarington. I paid the exact same taxes then than I do having property out here. That doesn't mean it's not a problem, but we need to find ways to bring more income into the community. So again, we're not imposing on the taxpayer to burden that cost.
Thank you. And Sandra, 1 minute, please.
Yeah, I'm not gonna promise not to raise taxes because that would be a lie, because the truth is, it's not my decision. It's 7 people sitting at a table, talking about the services, seeing what the money's coming in, and figuring out our priorities, our needs over our wants. So I can't sit here and say that. It may happen, and I'm a taxpayer too, and I would love it if our taxes went down, but that is not the reality. If we grow our tax base, the more people sharing the burden, the less taxes. If we trim services, what are we giving up? So it is a very, it is a fine line, and it's a tough type road, and it is budget, and that's coming up in November, and it's not going to be easy. But really, that's the truth. I couldn't promise you that they'd stay the same, go up or down. I would be lying.
Thank you. Next question was one that you were given in advance. It will require a 2-minute response, please. And starting with Sandra, the question is, what are your thoughts on Campbellford's downtown appearance regarding storefronts and/or buildings that are in disrepair? There are also areas in the downtown owned by the municipality that look very uninviting and run down. For example, municipal parking lots that have a lot of weeds, crushed and rusted culverts, hydro poles, low-hanging loose electrical wires, and bent, rusted, broken guardrails, and garbage lying around. In the evenings, these areas are not well lit and can be intimidating. The lampposts are in bad condition and in need of repair, as is the colored concrete throughout the downtown. What would you do to address these issues and to promote the revitalization of these areas? Sandra, please.
Well, in my opinion, you only get one chance to make a great first impression. Since we rely on businesses, small industry, and tourism, we need to make that impression great. So we need to ask ourselves, and with a very honest set of eyes here, what do we see, hear, notice, and smell sometimes because of the chocolate factory? And what do we think when we first drive in over that bridge and welcome to Campbellford signs appear? And you've arrived in town from either side of the bridge, and what is it? Are you impressed? And if we're not impressed, neither is anybody else. So having sidewalks in disrepair or streetlights burnt out, it's not acceptable, it's not safe. And it's not just for appearance sake, it's for liability as well. If someone slips, trips, or falls, that's heavy dollars, because I can guarantee you municipality will be part of a lawsuit. If it's county owned, county's responsible, let's get them replacing those things. But again, I say residents, and myself too, many times I walk by a burnt light and didn't tell anybody. I mean, we have to tell people or they don't. I mean, all our staff can't be everywhere at once. So you have to tell the municipality what's going on. Having municipally owned buildings with weeds around them, again, it's not acceptable. Maybe we could work with the high school for those students to fill their 40 hours and get over there, you know, cleaning up their town, and getting a little pride and ownership. We must review our current bylaws, it's friendly clear bylaw, the fence bylaw, the property standards, storage containers. Are our bylaws up to date? Are they effective? And are we enforcing them? And if the answer is no to any of that, we need to get to work. Do we require additional bylaws? Perhaps we do. And, you know, there is one building that's giving the BIA quite a go, but they're working hard they work so hard to clean up the downtown and make it very impressive. There are tons of local funding through and I'll give them to you later. I have them all here, but the municipality has tons of grants available as well.
Thank you. And Daniel, 2 minutes, please.
Once again, I know with my business, we're looking now on how we're being productive, even in the warehouse, and we're doing a whole revamp. And I speak to this once before. Just because we've done something one way doesn't mean it continues to work the same way. I know when I was driving downtown, it was raining, and saw someone watering flowers, and I thought it was kind of a weird use of expenses. I think as a councillor, we need to. It's not that we need to hold management well, you know what reality is that we do. That's our job. Our job is to speak for the people, and our job is to hold the management responsible. How are we spending our tax dollars? Why are we watering flowers in the rain when we have other things that need to be done? If we take ownership of our community, then the people that live here will do the same. You know, if we spend money on revitalizing downtown and encourage business owners to invest in their properties and change the look of the property, so that when you come over the bridge, you don't feel paint on a building, which is your first impression, which we talked about the curb appeal. If we as a municipality take care of the community and encourage our business owners to do the same, then the people that live here will do the same, and it just becomes an ongoing factor. I think what we need to do is look at things like with the $5,000 grant, look at maybe finding different funding to increase that grant, but put controls in place and say, okay, here's the money you have, but this is our mandate, and this is how you have to use it to increase it, because curb appeal is everything, especially in tourist town. As far as the lights and the wires and all that kind of stuff, it's certainly a municipal problem, and that's something that the new council needs to look at again on how that money is being spent. Again, it's the taxpayers' money, and we need to be responsible. Thank you.
Thank you. The next, someone really hesitated for our lamp posts. The next question is: our lamp posts downtown are being used for mass advertising, poster hanging, etc. There is a bylaw prohibiting such use of public property, but it never seems to be enforced. What would you do to address the problem? 1 minute response. Again, Daniel, you'll be going to start with this one, please.
Well, I used to work at a youth center a long time ago, and one of the problems that we had was kids tagging buildings. So the resolution we came up with was to build a wall that the kids could do it, and if it was a profane, we could just whitewash it. But we gave them a use or a place to express themselves. I know that working outside the area, we often see posters put up and that kind of stuff. Maybe the problem isn't mitigating that, or sorry, the problem is enforcing that. But maybe the solution is finding other ways for people to advertise that's controlled and taken care of, whether it be bulletin boards or outside or even electronic boards or something like that. And even then, be another opportunity for the community to generate income.
Thank you. And Sandra, 1 minute, please.
Oh, that's a good question. Yeah, the lampposts are absolutely being used for all kinds of things like lost pets and upcoming yard sales and upcoming events. And and I know exactly what you're saying, because the moment it rains, then they just become sort of a washed out ugliness on our lovely lampposts. So, but I agree with Daniel. I mean, the people are trying. People are walking by every day. So I think that's a giant light bulb for us, saying we need some sort of community bulletin board. Maybe we could have sponsors around it or something. And the mural idea is great. The council's actually has approved that. And so murals are going to happen. And I think they're awesome. It's such a great way to take that, the artistic and creative nature of our people out there and let it flourish. So I don't like the lampposts either. I totally know what this person is saying, but I don't think we should. I think instead of punishing, we should be trying to filter that into some way of allowing them to do it.
Thank you. Next question. This resident thinks there are 3 issues which require immediate action in Trent Hills. Number 1, climate change action. Number 2, affordable housing for seniors. And 3rd, aging and home support. This person's question is, would you consider sistering with a town in Norway or Sweden, for example, that is of comparable size and location in the countryside, where the citizens are successfully living healthy, environmentally responsible lives? I would think we could learn from their plans and decisions. 1 minute response, and Sandra, you can start this, please.
Well, yeah, that's a good question too. And I think every decision that council makes now and in the future should have at one of the forefronts is our environment and our air and our water, because once we mess it up, that's it. And I think as human beings, we haven't done a particularly great job of that. So that should be something that we're always thinking about. I mean, I know the question is asking about would I consider sistering with another community or town that was of a similar nature and with the similar goals of what we're trying to make. And absolutely, I mean, if somebody's doing it really well, then borrow their ideas. That's the best compliment we can give. So, I mean, it's kind of like our storefronts in our downtown area here in Campbellford. I mean, I love living in Campbellford, but they have it figured out. It isn't a secret. I'm sure they'd be glad to share how they've got that all figured out. And Houston's is looking pretty good too. So, I mean, if they can do it, we can do it. And we are all one community here. So I'd absolutely be willing to sister.
And 1 minute, Daniel.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and kick a dead horse, because if we don't look to better practices, then we fail to grow. And that's just the reality. So the answer to that question is yes, we should look to other communities. We should look at the council. Can't be stagnant. We need to not only hold our staff accountable, but we also need to look for alternatives. We need to be part of the solution, whether it's the climate change, affordable housing, or seniors. My previous job before was working with a company that worked in developing seniors' homes. I know the demand and the need for it. And of course, we live in an aging community now. It'll always be a fight, but we have to define proper housing for seniors and affordable housing. But we got to do something. We got to start now. So I'll go back to it again. We need to find people to invest in this community. We need to give developers a reason to come to Trent Hills and invest in this community. And we need, as a municipality, to partner with these people, not only to encourage growth, but to also be able to create physical income from it.
Okay, thank you. This next question follows the same theme regarding the housing. This resident asks, why aren't more housing condos for seniors being built? All small towns around us are busy building, but Campbellford seems to be stalled. What are your ideas to support housing for seniors? Another resident asks, what can you do to help the disabled and the homeless? This is a 2-minute response. Daniel, start please.
I don't know the answer for why it hasn't happened. I know that we need to, the reality is we got to find a way to not only grow the community, but also protect what we have. You know, we can't be putting in high rises, but we have opportunities for development. I know that we have a lot of permits out for future development, but maybe we can look at affordable housing for seniors, affordable housing for low-income families. Again, working in construction, I've had experiences with developers who have done that and partnered both with provincial and federal governments to have grants. So the answer is I'm not entirely sure why we haven't, but I know that we need to look into providing affordable housing. Now that's a blanket response. The reality is the only way to find that answer is to put your feet on the ground and go out and figure it out. And in council, we have to be able to put the work in and find the answer. So the biggest thing is I just don't know yet, but I know I'm going to work towards it.
Thank you. And Sandra, 2 minutes, please.
Yeah, I think, and again, because I'm now getting the benefit of seniors discounts when I shop, this is very near and dear to me. So, yes, and not just apartment living or condos, it should be affordable rentals and affordable home ownership, because depending on what a senior or an older citizen wants and what they're looking for, they should be able to downsize or move, but remain within their community. You shouldn't have to go outside your community to get a living arrangement that's suitable for you, that's on one level, or that it's accessible or has supportive nature to it, so that if you have medical concerns, you can certainly get that as well. So some of the things that I've thought about are maybe waiving property taxes for nonprofit housing. If we can find developers, and we can find them, target them and offer some of the following things: waiving property taxes for nonprofit housing or senior development if the money is reinvested back into maintaining those homes and then building more. Offer surplus municipal lands for community builds, such as Habitat for Humanity, that just happened in Hastings. There's no reason we can't do that for seniors development. They're very open to all kinds of suggestions, and I mean, they can think outside the box, so can we. Tapping the federal money to support seniors. Take another look at the 2017 pilot Northumberland County Home Share Project to see if we can have seniors sharing homes with each other and supporting each other. Because often it's a social thing too, but if you don't want to live alone, but maybe they can afford to live together in one unit when they're sharing the costs. There is a county's affordable housing strategy 2019 with incentives to encourage the development of additional housing for seniors. And lots more, but I'm out of time. Thank you.
Thank you. This is question number 12, so we're slowly getting through the process here. Doing well, thank you. How do you plan to involve residents in the decision-making process in Trent Hills? A 1-minute response, starting with Sandra.
Okay. So research suggests social media, public meetings, newspaper ads, website, newsletters, but Trent Hills Municipality already does things not just to the limit of what they're supposed to, but much more. So I would like to see citizens forum can be established by community members of a citizens group, have some very casual, non-formal town hall meetings. Our local radio station, where CKOL 93.7 FM, Campbellford, has welcomed any of the council to do a weekly, monthly, bi-monthly, come in and talk and have people call in with their questions. So there's free access to the residents right there. Encourage new members to committees that we have and boards that are boards and committees of council to make sure that we're adding fresh blood and new ideas and keep communities and boards stimulated and creative. Maybe a semi-annual newsletter or a pickup box outside of the municipal office, the way we pick up real estate magazines.
Please, thank you. Daniel?
Well, I'm going to treat this as a personal question. As probably can figure out, I don't like mics. I'm a boots on the ground kind of guy. I like meeting people and talking to them. The biggest thing I believe is as a council is need to be accessible. Personally, my only strategy has been knocking on doors. I've been doing this since the beginning of June, going out and meeting people and talking and asking what their concerns are. I don't think that should end at election day. My goal is, even in the 4-year term, is to continue going out and continue knocking on doors, saying, hey, how are we doing? You know, what do you think is going on? Are you seeing change? You know, I think council members like myself can use social media to inform residents, using things like YouTube to create videos to inform. But the biggest thing is I have one number. I use it for work, I use it for personal, and I'm going to use it for council. If you see me doing something wrong, you can call me, you can just smack in the back of the head and say, Daniel, you know, you're my voice, do something better. I think that's what we need to do, is just constantly be out there, finding out what the people think.
Thank you. Next question. How well do you think council responded to a rocket engine testing site being set up on Mansell Road? And what, if anything, would you have done differently? Daniel, would you like to address that?
I want to thank Nancy for keeping this question in. The reality is, it's a hot topic. It absolutely is a hot topic. I know that there's some back and forth, and there was a discussion about what we look council, but the reality is, whether it's the space ride program or something else, we need to be able to embrace new industry. Do we need to put better controls in when we deal with our bylaws? 100%. Bylaws are a living item, a living paperwork. We need to look at where things have failed. When it comes to the space ride program, I think I'm going to deflect a little bit, and I apologize for this, but the part that concerns me as a new resident is the way that they're being treated. We need to look at the humanity of how people who have come into this community and brought it in this industry are being treated, and it's quite poor the way they're being treated. There's an opportunity for education. There's an opportunity for us to be on the map in the space program. There's an opportunity for us to be on the map in science education and science development. I'm not saying that what's happening is right. I'm not saying what's wrong, but I'm saying if we lose them, it's a missed opportunity. And also it'll set the tone for other industries that we're closed for business. And I think what we need to do is, okay, we need to look at if there's controls or there's mitigation or concerns. And because I know speaking to Sorb, and I've been to his facility even in Etobicoke, I know he's open to looking to change, to find ways to make it more comfortable for the neighbors. But instead of just saying get out, we need to find ways that we can work with them, and then we can tell people outside that we are open for business, that we do want new industries in this community.
Thank you. Sandra, 2 minutes, please.
Well, I won't be taking up 2 minutes. I want to go back and answer some of the other questions, but I won't. So it's rocket engine testing. And so as far, I think the question is, what do you think of the response of council to it? But I'll say this, that I was very surprised that I didn't already know about the company and work with, and I'm going to have to check my grapevine lines of communication because I cannot believe that I didn't know it when my daughter and her family lived there. But maybe I'm obviously out of the loop. And I did attend the site visit on September 9th with Daniel and a couple of councillors and some other candidates that are running, and we were invited out for a tour separate from the public tour. And it was really interesting. Questions were asked and answered, and I think they were very forthcoming. I do continue to get the emails, and I think they're all linked now. I think the emails are going to the municipality, the mayor, and all of us at the same time. So we're all in this big loop together, whether we like it or not, but there we are. So I continue to follow the issue very carefully because I hope to serve as your council member. So I want to be up on what is happening here. But having said that, it is currently a legal opinion that's been requested. So, and with that, the council has requested available options going forward, not to boot them out and not to welcome them in, but just to see where it is at a legal standpoint, because that's part of their job too. So that is all I really am comfortable stating at that time. I don't want to get involved in any of the what's happening there unless I'm in a seat at the table. So, thank you.
Thank you. Next question. There is only one municipal electrical vehicle charging station in downtown Tampa, where it is difficult to access Wi-Fi network required to use this station. If you are elected, will installing more municipal EV stations with convenient access become a priority for you? Sandra, that's a 1 minute, please.
1 minute. Yeah. The answer would be, yeah, I sure would. Putting municipal actions where our interactions are by supporting things such as the electrical vehicle outlets, by supporting all, again, like I said, our climate, our water, our environment. Once we've messed it up, we don't get that back so easily. So I absolutely would support that. If we don't have it, people can't buy the vehicles and utilize. Like, I mean, it's one or the other. We have to take that step forward and put those in place so people can then utilize. So my answer would be a solid yes.
1 minute, Daniel.
I mean, I just had a conversation, I think, with the author of that question. So the answer is yes. The reality is when we do, the person I spoke to spoke about the drugstore in the parking lot. if we as a municipality can partner with businesses to give them funding or grants to be able to put in these kind of parking spots for electric vehicles, then we can all increase our tourism, but we can also increase our profitability. The other thing is we can look into either partnering with Tesla or with our hydro to see if we can provide not only charging stations, but free access to charging stations on a trickle charge, which forces people to stay longer in the downtown and spend money. So the answer is yes, we need more of them, and we need to encourage people to stay.
Thank you. The next two questions were given to you in advance. So the first one is a draft bylaw change to the official plan regarding short-term accommodation rentals was recently presented to council. What is your opinion on how Trent Hills Council should proceed with short-term accommodation rentals? 2-minute response, Daniel, you start, please.
So, I mean, as we talk, tourism is good. It's a big part of our economy. A balance needs to be found. We need to create controls, like implementing noise violations as a business, not as a residential, to enforce that the bylaws are being adhered to. Other controls like sizing, number of rooms, as well as increased inspections and more in-depth licensing requirements are some of the options. But the reality is that there is a need for short-term rentals. Specifically, a friend of mine who works in the support industry has told me that the support workers need housing to be able to work at our seniors' homes. Apparently, they've lost out on a lot of staff because they haven't been able to put people in homes. Short-term rentals are an access for that. Not to mention the infrastructure employment, like the dam workers who work here need short-term accommodations. This not only brings in an income for short-term rentals, but also income to local businesses. Short-term rentals offer a chance for visitors not only to try out our community, but they get to try out our community, decide if they want to stay here forever. I know we have hotels and B&Bs, but I know from a personal experience when I've had people up, they're often overbooked and not available. Not only for tourism, but also for support workers and for construction workers. So I believe that we need to encourage that, but again, put more controls on the bylaw infractions.
Thank you. Sandra, 2 minutes, please.
Well, I watched the August 2nd public hearing meeting where the delegation spoke on this issue on both sides, and they provided very compelling examples and they provided reasonable comments. So this is not a new situation. Years ago, when people had cottage, they did rentals for parts of the season that they weren't in attendance. So actually, this is an old problem creeping up because we have many, many more now. And so the more we have, the more likelihood we're going to have issues. And only now has this really become an issue because of a few disrespectful renters and irresponsible owners. And coupled with the fact that enforcement is very difficult, not just with the OPP, but with our bylaw. So STA renters are here for a visit and we'd like them, for the most part, to stay for a lifestyle. So we say. So if we say that, we have to mean that, and we have to put into play all of the things that can make that happen. So these renters could potentially be new residents, new business owners, or just visiting tourists spending money here. And generally, most are good short-term neighbors. Certainly that isn't the priority over our residents and what they're going through, but it is a reasonable factor and we do have to think about it. And I don't think we need to eliminate STAs completely, but I do think we need to put in play the official plan amendment, comprehensive zoning bylaw amendment, licensing. We need to look at possible separate tax for properties being used at STAs. Therefore, taxes are higher on owners when they don't actually live in that property. Owners should be made to be available 24/7, and if not, somebody who's within 15 minutes of a call. But I also think that we need to look at our current bylaws, such as noise, for example. Are they up to date? Do they have enough bite to them? Is there any point of our bylaw enforcement going out there if they can't actually enforce anything? So the next step, in my opinion, would be several more additional public meetings and input. I know the staff is trying, this is a whole new thing for them, so they're trying to put together information.
Okay, thank you. Next one, as I said, was an advanced question. If you like, how will you support and grow local tourism, business, and industry? Businesses have been hit hard during the pandemic and need all the help they can get. What is your plan to keep our small business community thriving? 1 minute, Sandra, please, we can start.
So I'm going to lump them all together here and say support and promote all our tourism projects, activities, in collaboration with our Trent Hills Chamber of Commerce, with the local conservation authorities, make sure we're promoting our strengths, our scenic, our rural, our waterfront opportunities for all 4 seasons and not just the summer. Create an inclusive presence, welcome diversity, and continue on promoting heritage, culture, and the arts. Continue to advocate for faster and more reliable broadband for our businesses who rely on that. Monitor municipal service costs associated with delivering services and see if we can be more cost effective and competitive. Search our business that complement our already existing downtown core and see what aligns with our future plans. Encourage businesses to use things like the Community Development and Accessibility Fund. Accessibility 2025, it's coming. And there's also the Community Improvement Plan and many opportunities for funding through the municipality itself.
Thank you. Daniel?
Again, as a small business owner, with the staff to manage, the more important is clear communication, strong application for businesses. I want to continue to work with the Chamber of Commerce to help find ways to streamline the interactions with Town Hall in areas like zoning and permits. We need to find investors. We've talked about it many times, and developers come into the community, similar to a company like we have with Commercial. The council needs to find incentives for development and bring in retail services industries that will support developers and investors coming in. We need to partner with the DIA and the Chamber of Commerce to increase the profile of Canada. One of the things I was going to talk about is we need to find ways to bring in electric charging stations, creating street animation, and also even look at doing more street festivals in the parking lot, similar to what we have at Incredible Outlaws Festival. If we're going to encourage our businesses to be here, we also have to encourage tourism to help them thrive and help them grow.
Okay. This ratepayer says we live in a beautiful area, but we are not utilizing the river as a tourist attraction. What can be done to make it more inviting for guests coming into our area? 2 minutes is allotted to this. Daniel, you can start, please.
Access. I look at Hastings. I look at their waterfront and the access they have to it. I mean, don't get me wrong, we chose Camford and fell in love with it, but with the exception of the Chamber of Commerce and the park with the coin, there's very limited access to the river. We don't see boat tours. We don't see kayak rentals. We don't see canoe rentals. We don't see access to youth river. The dockside is a perfect example of things that we can do where we can encourage boaters to come up and get access to our restaurants. I know that we have great mooring stations. I know that they have you rent 2 nights and you get a 3-1 free. These are great incentives. But the reality is we got to stop the boaters from coming through and keep going through. And then we also got to find ways for land tourists to utilize it. And the biggest thing is the access. We got to find businesses or programs where we can encourage people. Lions Beach Park. I don't know how you deal with the goose problem, but it's a terrible park to walk in. I'm sorry. My dogs won't even swim there. We're losing a great opportunity to such a unique thing that can make us stand out. We're part of the Trent water system. Like, we just need to provide better access and find ways to deal with the issues that hold people back from using our river. I got 43 seconds. So I will say one of the things I do love seeing is down by the tennis courts. Every once in a while you see, again, I'm a dog lover, but every once in a while you see people down there with their dogs throwing balls into the water with dogs running. That's the kind of stuff that we need to encourage people to do. Whether it's not just about the boats, it's about people that have access just to walk into the water and use it for the dogs and use it for swimming with the kids. That was probably the biggest disappointment when we moved in here, realizing that the only way you can go swim is down underneath the bridge, and that's illegal. So we're not going to talk about that. So,
thank you. And Sandra, 2 minutes, please.
Well, I agree with everything Dan said, so that might surprise everybody.
good job.
But yeah, absolutely, all great ideas, and we should be promoting. Of course, one of the things is, I mean, we have a canal that runs right through the middle of our town. I mean, it's absolutely breathtaking. And when I see the photos posted on Facebook, it's just, I mean, it is our biggest resource. It is the biggest tourist hit we have, and we think about the kayak, the launch. It's great that Hastings has it, and we see all these photos posted with people. But we need one too. And I don't know, maybe we can, but I don't see why we can't try to work with the locks, the parks, the conservation authorities, and see what we can do together to promote things like having along the water area at the locks, having things where people can, stop and have a picnic and have a washroom available, like have a loo, and have a kayak launch. there. I mean, people want to swim. Well, my dog fell in the river, so that's different, but he's sweet, but not too brave. But yeah, like enjoy things that we could partner. And I think one of the things that I really noticed that I really, really liked was the July 1st activities here in Trent Hills. We started out in Warworth, and then the afternoon was for Campbellford, and then Hastings did our grand finale with, and I think that was such a, I mean, it stood out to me as such an example of how we could work together to really promote tourism and all the different activities. And where if somebody came for a visit and got off that boat, if we had some sort of transportation service to get them to all of the other communities as well. I mean, I think we could work together and really produce some amazing results.
Thank you. We're at the almost at the very end. We have a bonus question for you. 1 minute, starting with Sandra. How would you encourage a sense of community well-being in Trent Hills?
No. Well, for one thing, you're all here, so that's a really good sense of community. I think one of the good things is that with COVID, I guess from COVID, we can look to a silver lining that things like our council meetings, they ended up on YouTube, if you can imagine. And so you can watch those from the comfort of your own home. That's community unity. That's knowing what's going on. That's I think it's our public safety and taking care of each other. I think it's all the committees that we have, it's all the boards that we have. I think we have a good sense of community. I'm just not, I guess what bothers me in the community is the grapevine at work at its worst. When I like to go to the source if I hear something and ask them what it is, whether I like it or not, at least I get the answer. I think if we took more pride in our community and we behaved with each other the way we would like to be treated, we'd be all better off. Anyway.
You're looking at me because it's time.
I know. I want you to make it longer.
I didn't write the script. Daniel, 1 minute. How would you encourage a sense community well-being in Trent Hills?
So, I mean, the simple answer is we need to pioneer more unique community events. We need to find ways to unite the 3 towns into a single community. I believe that as a council, we need to work with other councils to find municipal-wide events similar to the idea of Coachella. We need to encourage growth in the art programs as well as support our local service clubs. I know as a member of a couple of service clubs, membership is a difficult thing. Personally, I like the signs where it says that everyone is welcome in Trent Hills. I think we need to market that and then follow up with actually become a welcoming new residents rather than just calling all of us people that come in city. I think if we embrace that change and embrace the people coming in and we get that sense of welcoming. And I know from speaking to a lot of residents, one of the biggest concerns is not having programs for kids in the summer. And I think it's one of the things that we can look to maybe developing municipal programs to give kids something to do here in the summer and a reason to stay in this community.
Great, thank you. You've done very well answering the questions. Thank you very much. And we're going to wrap up with a 2-minute closing from each of you. And then we will start and Sandra will finish. 2 minutes, please.
Once again, I would like to thank the Chamber and the attendees for your time. I'd like to thank those that for all of you that took the time to educate yourself and find out more about Sandra and myself. Informed voters are necessary. We don't have an incumbent in our ward, so you have the struggle of having to pick someone new and trust them for 4 years. My goal is to be accessible, to be the council people can talk to and share their concerns with. I will take things that I've learned in my career and provide leadership. Leadership that means getting out and doing the work. As mentioned before, I've been out since June, knocking on doors, meeting people and finding out what your concerns are. With that information, I will work hard to get you the answers. I can't promise you don't like the answers, but I will find them. Work to find the solutions and champion new businesses and industries while making sure we protect what makes Trent Hills so unique. There's a reason why people like my wife and I moved up here, and there's an even greater reason why I want to be part of the success. I'll work hard to make Trent Hills an even greater place to live and work in. I'll work to make council even more accessible, increase the level of transparency, and be active members in the community. I've said more than once, if you don't know me, it's because you don't get out much. I'm going to be out there. Simply put, I came to this town with the intention of retiring here one day. In the height of COVID, I made my mandate to be as involved in this community as possible. I believe it's safe to say I've accomplished that. In the last years, I've seen a need to run. I believe that my experience in the building industry and my close relationships with multiple municipalities and levels of government will provide me the tools to be a successful councillor for the people. I have experience in my industry at all levels of making the hard decisions. As an engineer, I was taught to gather information, compare and make informed decisions. When a solution isn't clear, I learned how to problem solve to find the solution. Every problem has a solution. The key is to work hard, gather information, and use the talent of other people. I genuinely believe that no candle loses its light by helping or lighting another candle. Together, we can help each other succeed. We need to show the people that Campbellford is open for business. But more importantly, I want to be a part of the solution. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Sandra, here's some of the closing bits.
So my co-candidate and I are both asking for your vote here tonight, but I remind you that I will bring experience to Trent Hills Council Chambers. A proven record of 4 years of dedication and commitment to council and planning meetings and police services board, emergency management, community hall, public works and heritage committees, just to name a few. I am familiar with local partners, organizations and agencies and the resources that are available here at Trent Hills and their government. It is vital that Trent Hills be strongly represented and that county services programs are accessible to Trent Hills residents. I bring experience having worked in collaboration with neighboring municipalities and the Joint Animal Control Board, as well as the Northumberland Peterborough Crime Stoppers Board. My experience has secured trusted partnerships. Through my employment, I interact daily with the people of Campbellford, Hastings, and Warkworth, both residents and business owners. My commitment to you is to place needs over want, be available to carry your concerns and issues forward to council, always vote in the best interests of this municipality and make common sense decisions in a respectful and professional manner, and bring the answers back to you. I entered this race with no agendas or personal issues to address and no alliances. I am an independent thinker, and the strategy of my campaign has demonstrated that I am ready to work effectively as part of a team, no matter what the results of this election. I am not afraid to ask the tough questions, and while ribbon cutting and photo walks are all well and good, it requires much, much more to get this job done. Your vote is your voice, and it does matter. And at this level of government, you have a direct say in where and how your tax dollars are spent. So vote for someone to represent you who truly knows this community, what's required of this position, and who will show up and do the work. I know what it takes to be an effective municipal councillor and strong representative for my community. 4 years is a long time with the wrong councillor, and I ask for your vote and I ask for your trust. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's give Sandra and Daniel a round of applause.